The MiG-23 certainly evolved Soviet fighter design, and it is an aircraft still in limited service to this day. The Cold War was a truly fascinating period for military aircraft design. The Soviet Union and the West were locked in a major arms race, while also trying to maintain a nuclear deterrent against the other side. Of course, as we know, hostilities never did kick off, much to the relief of the world. But what the Cold War did see though was a huge advancement in aircraft technology, and some truly iconic machines took to the skies. Some very successful, while some were less successful. Some of the best included aircraft such as the British Avro Vulcan bomber, the American SR-71 Blackbird spy plane, and the Soviets' MiG-21 fighter. As the period went on, aircraft got more and more advanced, and the Mikoyan-Gurevich company soon introduced the MiG-23 fighter bomber. The MiG-23 was an interesting aircraft, with a swing-wing or variable geometry design, and it also formed the basis for the later MiG-27 ground attack aircraft. The MiG-23 certainly evolved Soviet fighter design, and it is an aircraft still in limited service to this day. When it comes to aircraft of the Soviet Union, the MiG-23 is unquestionably one of the most recognizable. The MiG-23 was in effect the successor to the highly well-regarded MiG-21. The MiG-21 had developed a reputation as a fast, agile and fearsome aircraft, but it was somewhat limited in what it could actually do. Primitive radar and a short range plus a limited weapons load kept it firmly in the fighter-interceptor role. A new aircraft was needed to have more performance and range over the MiG-21 but also carry more weapons and update avionics. Another improvement needed was to ensure the new aircraft could take off and land in a shorter distance, and this led to the swing-wing design. Lift jets, similar to on aircraft such as the Hawker Siddeley Harrier, were thought about, but the swing-wing design was the better of the two options. The swing-wings on the MiG-23 could be set to angles of 16, 45 and 72 degrees, and development showed much promise prior to the first flight of the aircraft. The MiG-23 would first take to the skies on June 10, 1967, while the first production aircraft flew for the first time on May 21, 1969, the aircraft soon earning the NATO nickname Flogger. Thanks to its design, the MiG-23, while bigger than the MiG-21, was still light and agile enough to be a true dogfighting aircraft. Its main rivals were the American F-4 Phantom and F-111 Aardvark, but the latter was too big to become a true fighter aircraft and thus was a long-range interdictor. The MiG-23 was powered by a single Kacherov R-35-300 engine that produced 18,800 pounds of thrust with its afterburner, and gave the aircraft a top speed of 1,553 miles per hour, or Mach 2.35. In Soviet service, the MiG-23 perhaps had the quietest life of any of the airarms that operated the jet. The MiG-21 could actually win against the MiG-23 in a turning engagement, but the MiG-23 had capabilities that the MiG-21 did not, such as being able to use the latest beyond visual range missiles. The aircraft did see combat service in Soviet hands during the Soviet-Afghan War. With it claimed at least one Pakistani F-16 was shot down by a MiG-23 in the conflict. However, the Flogger would mostly fly close air support missions instead, the aircraft proving its worth as a fighter bomber and not just an interceptor or a fighter. It was ironically another air arms that the MiG-23 would see the most action. Iraq used the jet in the Iran-Iraq War in both the ground attack and air-to-air role, with them intercepting aircraft such as Iranian F-35s and F-14 Tomcats. While successful against the F-5s, the Tomcats were a tougher opponent. Syrian MiG-23s were used in the Syrian civil war in the bombing of Aleppo, and Iraq would again use the MiG-23 during the invasion of Kuwait and the Gulf War at the start of the 1990s. It was certainly an aircraft that had an interesting career. The MiG-23 is still in limited service with some air arms today. These include 3 with Kazakhstan and Libya, with even Zimbabwe using the aircraft, via 3 donated to them by Libya. Some are now in civilian hands in the United States, with 11 of them in the country. However, the modern Russian Air Force is not a user of its former Soviet Union aircraft. The MiG-23 though is one of the few aircraft built in the Cold War to actually see some form of combat service, and it is remarkable that they can still be found in service to this day.